You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Mellow yellow. What a pleasant surprise. Racism. Wait a minute. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow down, young lady. Slow down. You are a victim of racism, but you're a young white woman. Why in the world? Oh, so a bunch of black people are giving you a hard time because you are white. Is there something that you said or did that got them upset? Oh, so it's going across the facility, huh? Oh my goodness, a new counselor. Wow. And you see, I don't see racism as being anything other than an opinion. And I think the underlying situation, the thing that's causing the strife in that facility is something else, not just race. Okay, maybe that's it. Maybe it's the favoritism. Maybe the staff members are treating white folks in a manner that they shouldn't be treating them, and then probably giving special privileges to the people who are a minority race, like black folks. Oh my god, yeah, there's just so many different underlying factors involved in this. And I am not a big fan of racism. I don't think we're really against other races. I think it's more or less that if we're going to despise somebody, we either create a reason to do it or there's something the person did or said. And I think racism in the United States came about because there was people that went over to another country, either bought people or captured them, brought them back to the United States and turned them into slaves. And these people could not be treated as humans. If you're property, you can't be treated as an equal human being because in the United States it was illegal to buy and sell people. But you can buy and sell property. You can buy and sell something that wasn't human. And so they had to do that by default. And so to actually hate people because they're black, even then it didn't make any sense. And it just developed over the years. That's the way I see it. And in your case, it's not a matter of you being property now. It's just something that somebody's using as an excuse. And I have seen reverse racism like that, where black folks don't like white folks. And when I go to rallies and stuff, there's a lot of that out there. And it doesn't matter if you're a minority race or if you're a majority race, racism exists across the board. Well, there's really not too much you as an individual can do. And you don't have to prove yourself, and you're not actually inferior to anybody. It's just, this is their
You have
opinion.
60 seconds remaining.
And you can accept the fact that you have to agree to disagree. You don't like white people, that's fine. Get on with your life. What we're concerned about is not racism, because racism is not illegal. We're concerned about the illegal acts. If they start mistreating you because of your race, if they start harassing you or breaking the law in any way, then it becomes an
You
issue
have 30 seconds remaining.
that we have to deal with. And I suggest you report any illegal activity. And Racists look for a reaction from people. They're bullies. They're looking for you to do something or say something to give them an excuse. Just more or less like say, believe what you want. I don't agree with you and I'm not going to participate. Good. That's good. But I'm glad you called me and I will look into it and do what I can on my side. Welcome to AQS Inmate Call. I am your host, Joel Wilborn, and this deals with an issue that I've been dealing with pretty much all my life, and I just don't really understand it. And I think it's something that we kind of misinterpret, and it's racism. Now, one thing I tell folks is racism is not illegal. It has never been illegal. There's no law in the book in the United States that says that if you dislike other races, then you can be arrested and tried and go to prison. And there's just 5 different races in the world. Okay, we have white, we have black, we have native, we have Asian, and we have Pacific Islander. That's it. And racism is when somebody dislikes all or some of those folks. And it's not because of your race that necessarily should be the reason people dislike you. It should just be because of your opinion. I can understand a racist not liking another racist, but an Asian, let's say, who dislikes black people. Now, could we really sit down with this Asian person and ask, so you don't like brown colored skin? You don't like this race? And whenever you see this race, it just infuriates you. And that's it. It's like, let's just break it down to the basics. Let's just say the color black and the color red. And a person says, I don't like the color red. I can't stand it. And whenever I see it, it gets me angry. And technically black is not a color, but you look at black and just say, I don't like anything that's black. And I avoid anything that's black. To me, that seems stupid. I mean, just insane. Yet that's the way the world looks at it. You look at a color, a simple, basic color. The mind is not different. The mindset, the thoughts, the intelligence, all these things that make us who we are and distinguish us from other people, that can be transferred between any race. But a color, you dislike a person because of the color of his skin. That's it. The man might not be able to speak, might be in a coma lying in a bed, but because he's a color you don't agree with, you don't like him. And I'm not going to teach kids that. I don't want the next generation to grow up believing that the color of a skin is a reason to dislike a person. If you're going to have differences of opinion, or you're going to dislike a certain race, it should be because everybody, and this is impossible, but everybody in that race thinks alike. And to teach our kids to dislike a person just because this person has a different color skin is not fair to the child. There have been people throughout history who've fallen in love with other races, almost like Romeo and Juliet, which has a basis on that, where two families are feuding. They don't want their children intermingling with each other for whatever reason. And to teach people not to do this, it doesn't have any basis. Throughout history, when a person sees somebody and falls in love, race is usually not a factor, because like justice is blind, love is blind. And for me, I don't dislike races, but when I'm attracted to somebody, they're usually an opposite race than mine. I really enjoy being around people with the same race. I enjoy sharing culture and sharing ideas. It's just that when it comes to physical attraction, I'm attracted to another race, primarily the white race. And me being a black person and me being attracted to the white folks, that's just me. And it doesn't mean I don't like the other races. I do. It's just that's an attraction, and it's because of the color. But I'm not going to say I hate black folks, I hate Asian folks, I hate Pacific Islanders. It's just that when it comes to my relationships, I have a preference. I don't see a personal opinion as being an issue. That's once again not illegal. I look at the human race as mixed and not mixed. If I were to marry a white person and have a child, most likely that child will be considered black. Now, like today, we have a lot of the issues where people are choosing their gender. Born a male, but choose to be identified as a female, or choose to be identified as someone who doesn't have a race. I mean, a sexual gender. And as much as I don't like that idea, because physically, we have our limitations and our strengths and our weaknesses. That's what we're leaning toward, choosing that. And race is not something you can really just walk out and choose, but I think eventually we'll get there. People will choose to be black or white. Now, like I said, if I were married to a white person and had a child, that person most likely would be identified as black. Yet, this person is 50% white. So if I were to have a daughter, the world would see her as black, and of course the white people that are racist would be against her. But let's say she walks out, sits down, fills out a form at a hospital and says, I am white. Is that wrong? Of course not. She's 50-50. She can choose whatever she wants. But my opinion, it's a mixed race, which is fine. And so do we have racists that are against mixed race? Is that another race out there? If you're Christian, you believe in Adam and Eve. We're all related. It doesn't matter. Race does not literally matter. If you're a creationist, or you're an atheist, you're somebody who doesn't believe that God created people, then you believe something formed in the ocean and just crawled out. Now, there wasn't 5 or 6 different creatures that crawled out and developed these colors. One creature crawled out, or maybe a group of them, and then they all mated and created people. And if you study, let's say, a region like the tropics, tropical regions, most likely you're not going to find redheads with pale skin in a tropical region as a natural race. It could be transplanted, it could come from England or something, but when I think of islands, tropical areas, I don't think of redheaded white folks. If I think of Scotland, Germany, Ireland, I'm going to picture white people. And if somebody says, I have a friend who's from Australia, if I think of the native Australians, I'm going to think of darker skinned folks. And that's just me by nature. It doesn't mean I'm against them or anything. It doesn't mean I'm stereotyping them. That's just the way I picture it. Because Why would anybody live comfortable with pale skin in an area that's constantly bombarded with sun? A redheaded individual would have to stay in the shade a lot in an area that's tropical. But someone with my skin color, brown skin color, or the Pacific Islander, Asian, they could roam around because the sun doesn't affect darker skin as much as it does the lighter skin. And that's just me talking because I'm no expert in this field. It's just that racism, to me, just has no basis. You're disliking people because their bodies are adapted to an area. And in the case of the United States, these people were plucked from their home. They didn't even want to be here. And you drag them over here against their will, force them into slavery, and then automatically say you're not a human being and we don't like you. What are they supposed to do? And so when we see racism inside of the prisons, it's almost like it's an excuse just to dislike people, just to cause more strife. There's no basis for it. These folks are all sitting in a prison, and they got there because they committed a crime. And let's face it, criminals don't say, I'm black, so I have to be a criminal. Or I'm white, so I have to be a victim. Or I'm Asian, and I have to know karate and kung fu. That we don't need to be teaching folks. That's a stereotype. Crime doesn't care. Disease doesn't care. And death, birth, they don't care what your race is. Only us humans do. You have a pet dog, and the pet dog isn't going to say, I just love white folks, or I just love Asian folks. It may look like that on occasion. But dogs love people, and people love dogs. And the wind doesn't just blow on a certain race. The sun doesn't just shine on a certain race. We just create this to cause conflict. And in many cases, it causes violence. It causes crime. And this is something we can do without. We could learn to live with each other. All of us, no matter who you are, have mixed races. There's no such thing as a pure race. It does not exist. There is no pure Asian, no pure white, no pure black. We all are mixed. So when I say non-mixed and mixed, non-mixed is the person that's primarily a certain race. Mixed is a person who's the child of two separate races. Immediate. After that, if my mixed child marries a non-mixed person, so if my my mixed black daughter marries a white person who has white parents, her children, my grandchildren, most likely will have very light colored skin, but they can still be considered black or white. So some of this racism is just based on what we believe. There's people throughout history you could look at and not know their race. You could look at a person and be spending all this time with a white person, and then the parents come in and they're both black. You're like, what is this? Your friend to say, you've been working with me all these years? Does it matter? Yes, I look white. I have gray eyes, blonde hair, light-colored skin, but both my parents are black. Does that make me a white person because I look the part? Is that why we choose the races? Because they look the part? Racism doesn't matter. Never has, never will. And we need to address that in the penal system. There's no reason to allow folks to distinguish people because of a race. And that's a good place to start, because when they get out, they realize, if I were dying and needed a blood transfusion and the person walked up to me and said, yeah, we can give you blood, but the only blood we have is from a race that's not yours, would you be willing to die not to take in that blood? Would you be willing to die on a battlefield if another race came up to help drag you out of danger? Would you say, leave me here, I don't want to be pulled by you people? And I really think if we can learn to live together, if we can learn to accept, it's nice that I have friends that talk about their Italian family and how they like to cook. I go into a house that they're Italian Americans, and they cook up food from their country. It's fantastic. I lived in Italy. I enjoyed Italian food. And I will distinguish Italian food from Asian food, from American food. That's fine for me. But the fact that only Italian people can cook Italian food, that only Asian people can cook Asian food, yeah, they grew up eating that. They grew up in that in their culture. But it doesn't mean it's exclusive to them. Just like race is not exclusive to people anymore. And it's coming. It has to. Gender is crossing the line. Race will be crossing the line. And I hope you can support people being treated as equals within the penal system. If a sign comes up that somebody's being mistreated, that's illegal, and we need to address it. If there's a lot of black folks in a prison, let's say the prison is 80% black and maybe 10% other, and then 10% white, we need to make sure that the correctional officials that get in there don't desize people because of the race. Maybe the crime, maybe they treat murderers different than they do drug addicts, but not race. Race shouldn't be an issue in the justice system, in the penal system. And in real life, we need to treat people as equals, because we are. There's really nothing that separates us except our thoughts, our actions, and our beliefs. Well, thanks for tuning in, and go out and have yourself a wonderful day and make beautiful memories for tomorrow.